Okay, welcome back. We're going to start over here in Ezekiel chapter 1, part number 2. If you have the Septuagint version, I'm going to be reading from there first. So I want to go ahead and give you a definition coming from the Lexham Bible Dictionary. Cherubim, supernatural composite creatures mentioned frequently in the Old Testament, often associated with Yahweh's presence and classified among the angels. Served as a traditional guardians of sacred spaces in ancient Near Eastern iconography, common depicted with the body of a lion, the wings of a bird, and the face of a human. And let's look at biblical reference. The cherubim are mentioned over 90 times in the Old Testament and only once in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, the cherubim are primarily associated with sacred spaces. Images of cherubim were central to the iconography of both the tabernacle and Solomon's temple. That's in Exodus chapter 26, verse number 1, 1 Kings 6:29, Ezekiel 41 and 15. Let us continue. 2 golden cherubim protected the ark of the covenant and served as Yahweh's throne. In the tabernacle, Exodus chapter 25, verse 18 through 22, two large wooden cherubims overlaid with gold guarded the entrance to the temple sanctuary. First Kings, that's 1 Kings chapter 6, verse number 23 through 28. The traditional ancient Near Eastern role of the cherubims are guardians of sacred space of evidence in Genesis chapter 3, verse 24, where cherubims are stationed at the entrance of the Garden of Eden to guard the tree of life. We will stop right there. Now let me go ahead and get into the reading of the scripture. I may not read the whole thing. I would encourage you to look it up on your own and read it out of the Septuagint version. I'm going to kind of skip through this. And I looked, and behold, the four had each one wheel on the ground near the living creatures, and the appearance of the wheels was as the appearance of beryl, and the four had one likeness, and their work was as it were a wheel in a wheel. They went on their four sides, they turned not as they went, neither did their backs turn, and they were high, and and beheld them, and the backs of them were full of eyes round about. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went about them. And when the living creatures lifted themselves off the earth, the wheels were lifted off. Wherever the cloud happened to be, there was the Spirit ready to go. The wheels went and were lifted up with them, because the Spirit of life was in the wheels. When those went, the wheels went. And when those stood, the wheels stood. And when those lifted themselves off the earth, they were lifted off with them. For the Spirit of life was in the wheels. And the likeness over the heads of the living creatures was as a firmament, as the appearance of crystal, spread out over their wings above, and their wings were spread out under the firmament, reaching one to the other. 2 wings, 2 each, covering their bodies. And I heard the sound of their wings when they went, as the sound of much water. And when they stood, their wings were let down. And lo, a voice from above the firmament that was over their head. There was as the appearance of a sapphire stone, and the likeness of a throne upon it. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as an appearance of a man above. And I saw as it were the resemblance of amber from the appearance of the loins and upward, and from the appearance of the loins and down under. I saw an appearance of fire, and the brightness thereof round about, as the appearance of the bow when it is in the cloud in days of rain. So was formed the brightness round about. Now, one of the things I'm going to be primarily touching on especially these first 10 chapters, is the presence of God. And one of the scriptures I touched on last time was over in the New Testament in Acts chapter 5, verse number 15 and 16. There it talks about where people got within the space of Peter's shadow, they were healed. And also the spirits that that was inside of them had left. Those spirits now are of the giants. When the giants walk the earth, they're disembodied spirits. My thing to you, my question to you guys, if we got serious with God and really got into his presence today, how would our earth look around us? You see the two crafts that you see right there, the TR3B, that actually came from this woman right here, Maria Orsic. Now, what I mean by that is the original of that TR3B was a machine that was called the Die Glocke. That was from the Germans, okay? And what she did was she would get within the presence of these entities, and she would get basically get the technology from them. So therefore, it made them extremely powerful as far as the technologically advanced. They were a very advanced civilization, that being the Germans. Now, what would happen? And we see what they did when uh, World War II was over. Many of these particular Germans were given jobs within NASA and other places like that. And that's how we got things like the TR3B. What I'm trying to get at, if they're able to make things like this, and I have seen other videos of this TR3B where literally like a dimensional gateway will open up and that thing will fly through. Once again, they got that from supernatural beings. But those supernatural beings are not greater than the great I am. What would happen if we really, truly got into the presence of God? If they're able to make those things and create things like that, what are we able to do? See, the world is being ran by technology of darkness. But I really believe that when the sons of light arise, we are going to get things from the throne room of heaven, directly from Yahweh God. And those things will be billions of times far superior to those things. See, as this temple that we are in is fading away, scripture speaks about in the New Testament far as this mortal must put on immortality. And there are plenty of stories. We're not going to get into it right now, but there are stories out there that I'm going to be reading to you guys of other people actually. It's very possible that it's more people than just Elijah and Enoch that were caught away. One of the things also I wanted to focus on right here was that God had to change the perspective of Ezekiel. Ezekiel had been over in Babylon possibly for a little bit over 10 years, 10, 14 years or so when he was called into ministry. And his calling was very similar to that of Moses in that he had a major supernatural encounter that we know that God would appear to Moses face to face. But in very strong supernatural visions, God had to appear, I believe, to Ezekiel to change his mental dynamic. Now, once again, if these guys were able to create things like this by getting in to the presence of demons, what can we do as children of God if we decide to get into the presence of God? I want to encourage all of you guys right now to really pursue God. Use these things. Say, wait a minute, if they can do that, what can God do through me if I really get in his presence? See, this isn't science fiction. This isn't a conspiracy. No, these are facts that these things have been made and that they got into the presence of rulers of darkness and got these things from. Well, I want to encourage you. We got to get into the presence of Yahweh. And when we get into the presence of Yahweh, our personal world is going to absolutely change. And we'll be just like with Peter when he was walking by. If this lady right here could get in the presence of that ruler of darkness, when we get into the presence of the great I am, Yahweh God, our world is going to absolutely change. We will be able to, there will be no illness, no sickness, no disease, nothing that we would not be able to lay hands on, and it absolutely be crushed and destroyed because of the I am that's inside of us, Yahweh God. My friends, the time is running out. My question to you, what's stopping you from completely entrusting yourselves in the presence of God? The time is at hand. Like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video. Please give a like. It lets YouTube know that someone's watching it. And please subscribe to the channel. It'll help us grow and be able to do more work.